Hello and welcome to our exclusive webinar on Let's Go to Portugal, Residency Permit in Portugal. My name is Afsana Rahim Lakhani, signing in from Lisboa. I'm the moderator for today's evening. We at the Lakhani Group invest in real estate and our service-focused family office dedicated in embracing values bringing shared wealth for the beneficiaries. Before we dive into the webinar, let me do a quick temperature check. We will request you to turn your audio and video off at all times. Kindly keep your phones on silent mode to get most out of this webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type it in our chat box. We will have time for the questions towards the end. Let us start with the webinar by watching a short video on Portugal.
Why do so many investors fall in love with Lisboa? Easy, there's no other city that combines this beautiful view with the beauty of these numbers. Lisboa is the closest European capital to the United States, South America and Africa, with 250 departures every day, and being the only capital in mainland Europe sharing the same time zone with the British capital, with more than 300 days of sunshine throughout the year. Lisboa is surrounded by more than 20 wonderful golf courses, only 4 train stations away from the beach, and just 1 hour drive from Nazaré, home of the biggest waves on the planet. Selected to be the 2020 European Green Capital, Lisboa transforms ecological concerns into reality, being the first European city to have a municipal fleet where 100% of light vehicles are electric, a huge recharging network with more than 540 stations, and 100% of the city lights running with LED technology. Innovation and adaptation are part of the mindset, with 90 colleges that produce 30,000 graduates a year, with 60% of them in business, tech or math degrees. No wonder Lisboa attracts global investment from all around the globe into our entrepreneurial community, an ecosystem dedicated to helping new businesses where 2 new startups are created every day. With more than 100 co-working spaces spread all over Lisboa, and with a 90-kilometer bike lane that reaches all corners of the city. It's so easy to enjoy the view commuting to work using one of the 2,150 shared bikes and 5,500 soft mobility vehicles. How about this? Lisboa is well known as a city that embraces diversity and welcomes all kinds of races, ethnicities, and religious beliefs. All that in a city with 7 Michelin-starred restaurants, and this sunset included. So, how about investing in Lisboa? Lisboa, the beautiful side of business.
Amazing. Yes, let us start our webinar by welcoming our 4 amazing speakers. So the first panelist is Diogo Capella, who is a managing partner at Lameres Capella and Associados. Diogo is an immigration lawyer. He is co-managing partner at Lameres and Capella, as I mentioned. He has focused his practice on foreign investor support with a special focus in immigration, citizenship, real estate, and corporate law, having handled thousands of files in these areas. At the same time, he has mentioned an intense activity in assisting foreign citizens in Portugal, providing his services to those wishing to live the invest in Portugal, whether by obtaining the non-habitual resident status (NHR), resident permits, or through the Golden Visa program. He has also provided his services to foreign companies wishing to carry out their activities in Portugal. Several times he has been present as a speaker, a panelist, moderator at international events related to immigration, more specifically RCBI. In 2021, Diogo was one of the winners of Best Immigration Lawyer by U Global Immigration Magazine Top 25 Attorneys Award 2021. We welcome Diogo, and the forum is all yours.
Thank you, Afsana, for the introduction. And I start by thanking the Lakhani Group for this invitation, and also to say hello to my fellow panelists here. And so I take the chance to give a very brief note on regards to what we are going to discuss here in terms of residence by investment program in Portugal, which is called the Golden Visa Program, which is, like I said, an investment, a residence permit, which is granted for people that perform an investment, third nationals, citizens, that after they have performed an investment in Portugal, they can be granted with a residence permit. These investments can be made. Generally speaking, we are talking about three different investments: transfer of capital, real estate, and job creation. Within these three different categories, there are subcategories of investments that can be performed. And on regards to transfer of capital, I do think that is better to highlight two of them, which have been very used by the investors that already have gotten the golden visa since 2012, when this program was created. And those are the transfer of funds. Nowadays, we are talking about the transfer of capital to a Portuguese bank account for 1.5 million euros, and also another option, which is to perform an investment and acquiring participation units on venture capital funds and investment funds in Portugal, okay, for 500,000 euros investment. Besides this, the investors can choose to also get or purchase a property in Portugal, and through this investment to also get the residence permit. And there are two different options here. The first one would be to invest in a property that is already that is ready to be used and doesn't need to have any rehabilitation works on it. And in this case, we are talking about an investment of 500,000 euros, which can be reduced to 400,000 euros if the investment is performed in a low density area in Portugal. And also there is another option, which is to perform this investment of purchasing a property and making rehabilitation works on it. And in that case, we are talking about a total investment, not only for the value of the property itself, but also for the rehabilitation works of 350,000 euros. And if this investment is made in a low density area, it can be reduced to 280,000 euros. The last one would be job creation. If you create a company in Portugal and you create 10 working jobs, 10 jobs, it is also possible to get the golden visa. But this is just a nutshell, or I'm just explaining in a nutshell how this works. The program itself is, as I told, it starts or it's necessary to perform this investment, and after the investment is made, the applicant can submit his application through an online portal, and the immigration police in Portugal will analyze not only the investment but also do the proper due diligence on the investment on the investor itself. And after the process is pre-approved, after the analysis of SEF, the immigration police in Portugal, the investor needs to travel to Portugal. Only then needs to travel to Portugal and get an appointment in a SEF delegation. There, he or she will need to get their biometrics. It's the time where when SEF takes the picture to the investor, the fingerprints, and it collects his signatures to after that issue the residence card. Not only for the investor, but it's also possible for the family members to get the same process done at the same time. The program has a validity of 5 years, is a 5 years program. And after those 5 years, the investor can choose between getting a Portuguese citizenship, which will grant him the Portuguese passport, or instead to get the permanent residence card. And I think in this way you can understand the structure of the entire program. And I would like also to point out some of the advantages of this program. The program itself, as I told, has 5 years, is a 5 years long program. And after that, it is possible to get the Portuguese citizenship, the permanent residence, and within that time frame, the 5 years, it is possible for the investor to travel to Portugal, to stay here, and also to travel within the Schengen area without the need for a Schengen visa, to ask for an additional visa. It's a very big advantage in this case, and not only this, but also to be able to obtain the Portuguese citizenship after 5 years, because during all this time, it just needs to stay in Portugal for, on average, 7 days per year during all this time. So it's very good when comparing with other programs. So I think this can just, it's a big picture for the program, and I would like to explain more in detail if you wish, but I leave the floor to the other panelists because there's lots of topics to be covered.
So much. Thank you so much, Diogo,
You're welcome.
for enlightening us about the visa process and how does it work. There are a few questions that we have been asked ongoingly through certain forums, and I would like to ask those questions to you. So, who is ideally eligible to apply for the Golden Visa?
So we are talking about three national citizens, or third country nationals, which means that there are the investors are not in the Schengen area, so they're outside the Schengen area, and we are talking about the investors, okay, as main applicants, but also family members, and who can be reunited. Okay, it's possible to do the family reunification for almost the entire family. We are talking here about the children, about parents, about in-laws as well. Okay, and of course spouses. So it's possible to bring all the family, and only the main applicant needs to perform the investment.
All right, thank you so much. Another question which I would like to ask is about that. So a lot of times, like people come across with several different kinds of visas. For example, there's D2, D7. There are so many categories available. Then why would people recommend Golden Visa over the other residence permit?
The main difference between them is that for the Golden Visa, as I told before, it is possible to keep the right to have the residence permit during the 5-year program, even if you're just staying in Portugal for a minimum period of 7 days on average per year. On the other hand, if we are talking about a D2, D7, or any other residence permit in Portugal, that is not possible. In order to keep the right to have the residence card, you cannot stay away from Portugal for a period or for more than 6 months in a row or 8 months intercalated within the period of validity of the residence card. Okay, so that is the main difference. In that being said, the golden visa allows the investor to stay in their own country while he or she keeps the right to have a residence permit in Portugal and with all the benefits that this involves.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. We have another question from our live audience out here. From Hashim Clark is asking, how long is the processing time or the waiting time for the Portuguese golden visa?
That is a very good question. Nowadays, it's something that is not so easy to answer. And the reason behind this is because we have faced several backlogs during the past 2 years regarding COVID-19. And also, SEF in Portugal is under let's say they are restructuring themselves, and so it's not so easy to predict. However, I would say that in general terms it can take within a period of 6 to 8 months to be completed.
All right, thank you so much. You mentioned that one can stay out of Portugal, and stay in their original country from where they are. So the question about tax, then how does the taxation work on that person? What is the tax regime that the person has to follow if the person is not staying here in Portugal?
Very well. So, on regards to taxes, the person it's or the applicant is only considered to be a tax resident in Portugal if he spends 183 days per year in Portugal, which means that if it's not the case, if he's still living outside Portugal, he will not be considered as a tax resident, so he doesn't need to file the taxes or tax returns here in Portugal.
Interesting, interesting.
Diogo, I have
Yeah.
just on that same question.
Yes.
You said you do not have to file, or do you have to file at a zero tax? There is always this question about not filing requirement versus filing it, but at a zero return. So, like, if maybe we can have the clarity on that, if you don't mind.
Yes, so I'm not the best person to answer this. Would be an accountant. Let me tell you, I'm not an accountant, so I don't file taxes. I'm not the one. But as far as I understand, the thing is, only tax residents needs to file the taxes here in Portugal. Okay, so if it's not the case, if it's not, if the person is not considered as a tax resident, it doesn't need to have the tax returns done here. Only if is spending more than 183 days per year, which is more or less 6 months, would be considered as a tax resident.
Perfect.
But I think Antonio is the best person here to answer this question, let me tell you.
Well, I will say very quickly, it's very simple. When it comes to taxes, all legal residents, all tax residents in Portugal need to file taxes for as long as they actually have income. Even a tax resident that does not have income is not required to file zero tax. Now, at the end, it doesn't really have to do where you actually a tax resident, but as it matters is where you actually got income. For a foreign resident, for a foreign tax resident, any tax income that he has in Portugal will be taxable according to the Portuguese law. Now, whether he needs or not to actually declare or to file that income that he got in Portugal in any other country will actually come under agreements for non-dual, or let's say to avoid the double taxation. Okay, and that's the only situation. Very often, the countries that Portugal has double taxation agreements with What it says is that the resident will always pay the taxes in the country where he gets it. So if the income is actually generated in Portugal, let's say by means of a rental of an apartment that the person, the investor, actually acquired in Portugal, he will be taxed for that income in Portugal. But he will not be taxed for anything that he may be getting in the country where he actually resides. And most of these agreements also allow that the income in Portugal, although it will be declared in the country of origin, it will only be used to establish the tax bracket that will be applied to the general income that the investor has. So I think this is basically the thing. It's tax are linked to the place where you actually generate revenue. Just as an information, for non-residents in Portugal, all revenue obtained in Portugal, irrespectively of basically, let's say, the source, is generally taxed at 28%, flat rate.
Right. With regards to the NHR scheme, if the person applies for, if there's the DTA which is signed, can the person apply in that first year of the golden visa application under the NHR scheme, wherein the person can be filing 10% of the taxes?
That's a different situation. But because what happens with the NHR, so the non-habitual residents, is that in fact they become residents of Portugal. They are indeed, theoretically, they will be spending in Portugal longer than a certain amount of time, but because they did not file taxes in Portugal for the previous 5 years, since they first start declaring, then they will come under NHR status, which is my status at the moment, because I just returned to Portugal last year. So for the next 10 years, I will be under the NHR status, which means that my tax is going to be severely reduced as compared to taxes paid by the normal Portuguese resident.
Okay, this is quite interesting. I think, thank you so much, Antonio. I think I'm gonna bounce back to more question after your presentation. So we
Right.
will keep this channel ongoing. Thank you so much, Antonio. And thank you, Diogo, for being such a great panelist.
You're right.
Moving on to our next panelist, Mr. Ahmad Sinhal, who is a managing partner at Smart Citizenship. He is one of the earliest promoters of residency by investment programs in Turkey. Then he went international in 2018 and onboarded 160 plus investors from 19 different countries to Turkish CIP and the Portuguese Golden Visa until 2021. In 2021, he founded Smart Citizenship to give cutting edge investment decision system support to investors looking to become international citizens. They have been using the know how accumulated while working together with world class investment managers and bringing their level of investment due diligence to the end user. With this value proposition, they are truly unique. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you so much, Afsana. You've set the bar quite high. I don't think I promote myself this aggressively. I should I should join Lakani Group's webinars more often. So to start off, I'm just going to touch upon a few subjects, and if you have any questions, feel free to guide me. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. We're going through unprecedented times, times in which you can find your countries in ruins, your country in desperate straits for basic necessities, or even your citizenship can become toxic overnight. Nobody expects this to happen. Everyone, I usually say, people have a more optimistic opinion about their prospects all the time. People have a bigger opinion of their careers, a bigger opinion of their bank accounts, but bigger opinion of the authorities that govern their countries. But let's face it, we no longer have the luxury to be responsible by the actions of our governments. This has become unsustainable in the world. I actually prepared your usual presentation, but I want to just freestyle over this rather than go by the presentation. So, first things first. If as an individual you're looking to get Schengen access, now is the time. I can assure you it will never be easier. The Portuguese Golden Visa program, although it has substantial level of due diligence requirements set in place, it's, I would say, one of the more draconian programs around. Even with that, I think right now it's quite easy to achieve. And looking at the other programs in the world, they are all under fire. I usually am very patient. I used to promote the programs. It could be Portugal, it could be Turkey, it could be other countries. Although I think everyone knows I'm Portugal and Turkey focused, 90% of my business. It's time to do it now, honestly. It's not a plan B anymore because it can become your plan A overnight. So, as with this out of the way, I want to talk about how you can complement your Portuguese Golden Visa or any other program you have by using the additional program, the Turkish Citizenship by Investment. People actually underwrote the Turkish program, underestimate the Turkish program when it launched. I have always been a very strong defender of the program. Yes, you do not have Schengen access. We know that. But what you do have access to is cutting edge healthcare, cutting edge education, amazing position to conduct business worldwide, and a very pro business environment. The country is built around the idea. With that out of the way, I really wanted to put this forward. Would you have any questions for me, Afsan?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ahmed. And we all love Turkey. So
I
you.
know.
All right, amazing. Yes, there are a few questions that I would want to ask in a general basis with regards to investment programs. Since you mentioned there's an elephant in the room, and I loved your starting. I would like to know that what is the future of citizenship through investment program? What do you foresee now? Who would be the elephant in the room in the future?
Well, the first things first. The countries that are combating each other right now, Ukraine and Russia, they produce and export. I'm sorry about they don't produce, but they export to 25% of world's grain output. They are busy fighting each other. People won't be sowing the fields this summer because they are busy doing something that we don't want them to do, but this is the case. Already in worldwide, we had issues of food security, and I don't think anyone is speculating they will get better. This is the first thing. And parts of Africa, the Indian subcontinent, I think they will be affected the most, but I think we will feel the effects worldwide. So we don't know which country is going to be hit with the next disaster. I don't want to be that guy in the room that is pointing at the wrong things about the world, but they are coming. For the past 20 years, we haven't been great at managing our world. And some things have simply become more unsustainable. So, apart from that, the future of residency or citizenship by investment, it looks a little bleak right now. But in 5 years, you won't recognize the industry. The big players that we have right now, they might disappear. The countries that is the go-to choice of everyone, they might change. But I can assure you, someone will fill in the gap. Someone will offer what people need. If you're it's basic it's the basic invisible hand of economics, almost more than 100 years old, I assume, that if countries stop offering their programs, then the guy next door will fill in the gap. This is what I foresee. But rest assured, in 5 years, I don't know who is going to be around in the industry in terms of countries, I mean.
Interesting. And you also mentioned that time is now and this is no longer plan B, it's your necessity. So in terms of necessity, I'm asking that which countries that do you foresee that they would need citizenship in the future and would want to apply for a dual passport?
You need to check a few things. Are you in good terms with your neighbors? So, is the guy next door planning to attack you? Is your country becoming more authoritarian? This is the second thing. And the third and biggest thing I have right now is, does your country have a dependable freshwater resource? These three things are, if you don't check any of the boxes, I suggest if you have the means to do so, you should look for alternatives. It doesn't have to be, honestly speaking, it doesn't have to be investment basis. But if you suspect you might need these, there are plenty of countries who are well equipped to harbor you in the next, I would assume, 7 years of instability in the world. So basically, is your country on good terms with your neighbors? Do you have access to fresh water? And is your country becoming more authoritarian by the minute? And by authoritarian, we're seeing our previous beacons of democracy becoming more and more authoritarian, and this is worrisome for everyone. By the way, I'm not pointing fingers. It could be anyone, any country. I'm not saying anyone is safe. It's just keep this in mind. It's good to have options.
Mhm.
This is, I think, the best approach.
Yes, interesting. Another small country which has fresh water is Portugal, lot of water around it, and would want to come talk about Portugal now. So, what do you think would be the changes in Portuguese program in the future?
Well, I think we've left most of it behind. I think they've done some substantial changes. I know it was criticized a lot, but I am actually for the changes. Residential, I know it has been the bread and butter of the program, but I think with these options in place, emphasizing creating more jobs, emphasizing the active financial investment aspects and commercial investments, I think they are doing the right things in supporting their population. I would assume moving forward, the money would reach more pockets with these systems in place. But of course, with the ever expanding pressure from the European Union, Portugal might have to make some changes. I'm not a lawyer. My friends are more equipped to answer this question. But the first thing we might lose if we don't enroll in the program right now would be the status to achieve citizenship. Because whichever report you look at coming from the EU, they talk about citizenship. I know they didn't name Portugal by name, but if the government is going to make a change, I think the first loss might be the citizenship aspect of the program. Well, I certainly hope, like, our applicants will be safe. I think that would be the way to go, because so if you applied before the changes in place, I would assume you would be eligible for the citizenship. But I mean, this could be the biggest change. I'm fortune telling right now.
All right.
Maybe we can have Dr. Diogo plug in onto this, from his point of view as well. I think it's important to kind of see
I'd love
what's
that.
the word on the street.
I don't foresee any big change on this regard, let me tell you. And the reason behind this is because the citizenship law has been under several changes, but not on regards to citizenship through the time, through the 5 years living in the country. So it's in this particular topic, I don't see that problem, but I understand what you just said about the importance of getting the Portuguese citizenship after 5 years, because it's one of the strongest passports in the world, and so it's a very good asset, let's say, for people that are seeking for a plan B in their lives to have this.
For sure.
Perfect. Ahmed, I have a question for you. Back to what you were talking earlier, and so in the Turkish program, as you already know, the citizenship route is literally 2 to 3 months. Um, you know, versus the Portuguese way of doing things, which is almost 6 years, 7 years at a time. I mean, what's the government's thought process behind having such a short span to achieve citizenship by investment?
I mean, if we had a perfect, let me tell you one thing about Turkish bureaucracy. If it isn't anything, it's efficient when it comes to business and attracting money. So the first thought process is Turkey has considerable resources at its disposal. The government, also to be exact, the government is quite strong over here and employs a lot of people. We have ease of access to more human capital. So the due diligence process, the bureaucratic side, it comes with the territory that it's fast, and the program is kept simple for a reason. We want more people playing for Team Turkey because anyone you bring on board, it's very rare that they spend that 250K in Turkey. My clients, most of them, they established companies, they employ people here because it's very pro business. And Turkey, I'm sure you know Rahim and Afsana, Istanbul is a great place to spend your hard-earned money. So they contribute a lot to the economy in general. We believe here in Turkey that investment migrants are a huge contributor to the economic success of Turkey's future. Uh, Imagine it like this: we're looking to attract the next Elon Musk that would establish their company in Turkey. This is the thought process behind it. It's plain and simple.
Back over to you, Afsan.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for your thought process and sharing with us. Thank you so much for your presence. Let's
You're
move
welcome.
ahead towards another dynamic personality in the room, Mr. Antonio Varela, who is the Director of International Affairs. Antonio Varela studied medicine at the University of Coimbra, Portugal, and an MBA in international business at the University of New England, Australia. A long-time expatriate in different continents, he had held several top international management positions with GE Healthcare and other world-leading companies in the healthcare industry. Antonio currently has his own management consultancy company and is working with GTPI as Director of International Affairs since 2017. We are really proud to have you, Mr. Antonio. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Afsana, and thank you very much, Rahim, for the opportunity that the Lakani Group gave us. We are very proud to say that have being one of the companies that actually, let's say, sells your own products in Portugal. We are very proud to do so, and that is actually the reason why we exist. I mean, the company was created before I actually joined. I was still working in the healthcare industry, or most of my time. But what we basically focus on, and we basically took advantage of the fact that we were at the time living in the UAE, in Dubai, one of the countries where I've lived the longest in my life. I've been in the United States, I've lived in Japan, I've lived in in France, in Spain, in South Korea, so in India. So I've been in different places living. But the interesting thing is that when we were in the Middle East and since 2012 with the Golden Visa program, it was definitely an opportunity to bring customers from the region into Portugal. Actually, one of my best friends is the 12th Golden Visa obtained in Portugal. He's currently a citizen of Portugal. And let's make sure that people understand that the Golden Visa program, which is basically an authorization for residents through investment, is separate from the citizenship. There are two separate laws in this regard. What happens is that because of the way the Golden Visa was prepared and because of attributing to people who obtain the Golden Visas to get this residence permit, their residence is is, let's say, made equivalent to people who actually spend 5 years living in the country. So whether they were or not living in the country, and in fact, there is a person asking how many days a year do they need to spend in the country, I would say, on average, 7 days per year is all you will need to come and spend in Portugal. But the interesting thing about the Golden Visa program is that those who acquire the residency without actually living in Portugal, after 5 years, they are equivalent to those who spent 5 years living at least 6 months in a row, or 8 months, separate these months and out, in and out, and all of that stuff, to actually apply for citizenship. And this is probably the thing that makes the difference in this particular program. Okay, there's some scrutiny. Yes, there is scrutiny because we want to make sure that the people we bring in the country are the right people. But the idea here has always been ensuring that Portugal, who has a diminishing population, because our population is still diminishing every single year, there's less births than there are deaths, unfortunately. So we can't replace the population. And that's one of the reasons why we've opened up the doors, in a way, to bring people into Portugal. Now, of course, I understand what was being said earlier, that the European Union is putting pressure over Portugal. They are, because when people get access to Portugal, they get access to all the other countries in the Schengen area, and all the other countries in the European Union in a way. So, yeah, there will be some pressure for us to keep some restrictions, but at the end of the day, there is not that much that can be done, because some things will be left to the country itself, and we continue now to promote, immigration in many, many different ways. We actually like very much the Golden Visa program in a way, because that brings money, not necessarily people to stay, but obviously there are other ways to come to Portugal. But I would say that those ways are actually for people who do not have the means to invest and who actually have to come and get a job, or try and do something like that. So this is basically the reason why this company exists, is to help people find the appropriate investment solution in real estate, whether we're talking about residential real estate or we're talking about commercial real estate. Could be offices building, could be offices, could be hotels, could be just plots of land to develop. I just got a request recently that is asking me for a plot of land where they can build something like 9,000 to 10,000 square meters that would be within half an hour by public transportation into basically the university area, the main university area in Lisbon, because this company, this investor would like to come and invest in student housing, for example. And this is exactly the kind of thing that we do. We try and match investors' needs to properties that exist or can actually be built in Portugal. And this is, I think, what we try and do. The other thing is, since we do not particularly do a lot of digging into finding properties and actually have our own listings, which are just ours and exclusively ours, most of the work that we do is done by strong partnerships with companies who are developers like the Lacani Group, or other real estate companies who actually have properties that may fit the needs of our customers better than some of the properties we may have in our own listings. Because for us, the key is to actually find solutions for the customers, not necessarily solutions for us. Now, through this process, we work with lawyers who support us. We work with people in tax people. We work with accountants that help people put up their businesses, because not every single time people come to us because they need a property. Sometimes they come to us because they have an investment they would like to put some money in. They don't necessarily like to get into the real estate business. Some people come for the healthcare. Portugal has top healthcare. Our healthcare can be compared to the very, very top in the world in terms of quality, but when it comes to access, it's probably one of the widest access that you will ever find. So it's very good to mention, the Portuguese healthcare system, as well as the education system. There's many, let's say, higher education schools which already teach in English, which is some examples in business, for example. whether you go to Catholic or you stay to the Catholic university or you stay with the normal, let's say, public university, it's all in English. So there's plenty of things that could attract people who want to come to Portugal. We've just opened up the door. Actually, we know that the SCF, so basically the frontier police, just issued more licenses for temporary refugees from Ukraine than we actually provided altogether in the past 10 years. This is temporary, but you can imagine that out of these temporary people that come, some will probably stay. We'll see. We're a very welcoming country, and we're a very welcoming company. What shall I say?
Thank you so much, Antonio, for enlightening us about your company and different portfolios and different processes that it undertakes. So, I have few questions and would like to know about the statistics on the program itself that you were sharing and how does it grow? Because the graph seems quite diverse in its own ways. So, can you share the statistics, please?
Well, in terms of statistics, if you'd like to know how, well, basically Portugal has issued something like 10,000, just over 10,000 authorizations of residence. The majority of them, like half of them, went for Chinese citizens. Okay, then big chunks went to Brazil, just over 1,000. Turkey, there's almost 500 Turkish families who actually obtained the same authorization. Very similar to South Africa, but also the same for Russia. Right now, Russian citizens will find some difficulty getting their process, through, let's say, through the channels in Portugal, but only due to this temporary, we hope, situation of the war between, Russia and Ukraine. We all feel terrible about that. We feel terrible about any war anywhere. We cannot forget the wars in the Middle East, whether it's in Libya or Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, all of these, the Portuguese feel very much with all these peoples. We're the people of the world. But apart from the 10,000 that came, I can simply say that the large majority, it's 9,500, basically, 9,500 residence permits were given through residential properties. There's only a very smaller amount, like 600 or so, that were by transferring capital, whether people actually purchased participations in companies or simply came to the country and opened up a bank account and deposited the amount of money. But those are relatively small, 600 so far. We believe that with the new law for the golden visa, that specifically this one will grow a lot because, these financial funds and the investment funds, especially in the real estate funds, these are exceptional opportunities for investors because they will not have to manage a property themselves. They can simply take a participation. They will buy a participation for a minimum of 350,000. Someone else is managing it for them, like the Lacani Group does, will pay them some return, and they actually get that access. And for them, it's totally irrelevant where the property that, let's say, Lacani Group has, whether they're investing in properties in Lisbon or, right in the middle of the country or somewhere else, it doesn't matter because it's still a Portuguese established company that has funds and shares that can actually be sold, and people just buy these participations. It's a perfect way. So we do see a huge potential for growth in this area. Now, by job creation, only like 20, something like this, 20 authorizations were given under job creation, which is a surprise somehow. We were expecting, I know Portugal, because the Golden Visa program started by the hand of a very, very personal friend of mine. And he's currently in Dubai playing golf, by the way. He just went there for the Paris International. But when it initially started, they believed that, the job creation would actually be a very easy way for people to come and invest in Portugal. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. In any case, all of the other investments have created a lot of new jobs, lots of new opportunities, because obviously, when there's people investing, there's always somebody else who has to come. There will be kids coming to school, for those who decide to actually move their residence into Portugal, there will be all different things. For example, lawyers have done very, very well these days.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Antonio. With regards to so many different types of visa applicants and so many different types of investment portfolios that are now available, I think it's a big job for the lawyers and the SEF to do the due diligence and a rigorous one. So I would like to ask, what would be the reasons for the refusal of the golden visa, as per your understanding?
Well, we do not know anyone who has been ever refused. But I think it also has to do with the fact that when we enter into a relation with a prospective customer, we always do some background checking. The reason is we want to make sure that we're dealing, I mean, at the end of the day, reasons I would see could deny somebody access would be things like being on one of the listings that exists. If they are on the the TDO or in the SDN list of the United States, which Europe also uses, the SDN is the specially designated nationals. Or if they are on the table of denial orders, or if they are in the listings of the Bank of England, and stuff like this, which basically has to do with terrorists and drug traffickers and all of that. Nah. If their, let's say, criminal record is not a clean one, or if it is not clean, but it's like a mild offense, I don't know. The guy had something like a traffic issue because he killed somebody driving a car. It is a criminal offense, but come on. This guy is not a criminal per se, not to the point that he would be, denied access to the visa. Honestly, other than being really a bad person, I don't really see reasons for that.
All right. Interesting.
I don't know. Maybe Diogo has a different experience. Being a lawyer, he's certainly a lot closer to this kind of issues than I am.
Thank you, Antonio. Just a quick note on this. I think you covered almost everything about this topic, but it is also important for people to understand that the due diligence on the investor, first of all, needs to start by the lawyers and also by the banks, because both of them are legally obliged through European Union laws to have a Know Your Customer form signed and filled out by the applicant or by the investor itself, so we can better understand if it's related to any activity that sounds suspect. So that is the first one. Also, as I told, the banks perform their own due diligence, and also SEF, as an immigration police, has the right to go and look after any problems that may arise on this applicant by himself. So they will look for any criminal records in Portugal and overseas. They will look for any registration on some specific platforms that are available to them internally on regards to the security, to the general security of the European Union. So it's kind of strange. Sometimes I listen to this, that some people that are not so well informed about this topic to generally say that there's no proper due diligence on the applicants. That's not correct. It's done, and we have a police dealing with this. So SEF is a proper police with by its own right, and they will look after these situations. So what Antonio said is 100% sure, 100% right. I actually don't know any case of any rejection based on this in particular, but I know that this is done in a proper way.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Diogo and Antonio as well. Let us move towards our next and final panelist, given the time limit that we have. So we have Rahim Lakhani, who is here to discuss more about the newly launched 7X fund, the team's track record, and its investment strategies. So Rahim is proud to present 25 million euro venture capital fund named 7X Portugal Fund, which is a golden visa immigration and investment solution managed by TLG Capital SCR. He is the president and CEO of the Lakhani Group, also a seasoned real estate investor that owns and operates a multi-million dollar portfolio of properties in Portugal, Canada, USA, and in India. He holds an engineering degree from Waterloo University and a postgraduate degree in real estate financing, taxation, and investment from University of Lisboa. We welcome Rahim to the webinar. The forum is all yours.
Thank you so much, Afsana, for the kind introduction. So, thank you everyone for the excellent out listening this. So this is actually really, really good that we are raising this awareness and raising the bar in terms of, what's out there and truly pouring our heart out in terms of, especially for the investors that we represent, that we are so plugged in, close to the ground, making sure that they get approved or not approved, or making sure that all the check boxes are ticked. And I think we, as the Lakhani Group, want to actually present and add more value to the conversation by making it more and more clear on what are the rules of the game. And I would like to point it out what Antonio mentioned, which is this new route of investments called investment funds. And this is how the landscape is being shaped in Portugal for those investors that is basically looking for an investment vehicle without the hassle and the stress of managing a property, but of course wants to have excellent returns on their investment. So this is exactly why we have launched 7X, which is an investment fund specifically focuses on three major categories called that we are experts at, which is luxury villa development, which is also into the hospitality world, and also into student housing. So these are the three areas that we have great expertise in over the last 30 plus years. Our family company has been in existence since, and this is what we bring to our investors prior to the existence. So just for those people who don't know, the investment fund route is a very recent addition to the landscape of investment funds, to the landscape of funds itself. And the addition of this being approved for Golden Visa is only been in existence in the last 2.5 years, 2.5 years. So this is actually an opportunity that is up and coming for those investors looking for an easy path for their Golden Visa. I'll take you through some of the main slides which we feel that are important in the interest of time, but of course available for those participants to learn more, and let us know if you'd like to have a copy of the presentation as well, and we can totally send this over to you. So from the mechanics of it, we are a government authorized fund. Here you will see a picture that is the Portuguese Securities Commission called CMVM, and on the right hand side is the fund code 1763. So what the investors are dealing with is not a private fund with no supervision. You are dealing with a government, with an entity that is privately managed but publicly supervised. So it's kind of a mix of both worlds, which is really great because it takes in input from multiple different sides. We do have a very, very strong team, of course, the family team, but also on top of that, we have the supervisory board and an investment board on top of that. So in a nutshell, you will notice that from a supervision level, you have many layers and external auditors also. So many layers that are involved in management of a complex vehicle like investment fund. So definitely recommend those investors who are looking for this kind of hands-on approach to make an investment into the fund itself. I would like to take a few minutes just to kind of give an impression on the kind of properties that we invest in. So this is actually one of our recent projects that is currently also available for an individual purchase of a villa, as well as if you would like to invest in the fund, which will then invest into the future phases of this particular development as well. So this is one example. This asset is in 15 minutes from Lisbon Airport, completely brand new in terms of the luxury concept, in terms of the service concept. You get all the services as if you live in a resort, and completely managed and supervised by the management team, with strong rentability between 3% to 6% yield, depending on the villa that you choose. So there are many factors to it. This is the first phase of 36 houses. And we have a second and a third phase launching very shortly after the first phase has been concluded. Close to 40% of the houses have already been sold. This particular development will be eligible for Golden Visa on both fronts. So definitely look out for strong projects like this, where your investment is also growing at a very strong rate, and you also receive a Golden Visa for you and your family. Apart from that, the fund will invest in student housing, like I mentioned earlier. We are looking at developing a brand new facility in an area called Carcavelos, which is about 15-20 minutes from Lisbon downtown. We already own one building there through a private joint venture, and we are developing a bigger site for more professionally managed student housing complex, which is a great need near this university because of the lack of good spaces for students to live and get themselves educated and have a very wholesome experience. So I guess gone are the days when we used to live with the old aunt in one of the four rooms, and she would always nag about cleaning the kitchen. So I think we can have a very good experience of a student housing place. And apart from that, we are also investing in a more stable asset, which is kind of the spin-off in so not the entire fund will be investing into construction assets only, just to balance things off. So we are investing into stable assets which are producing yield, but at the same time also has an opportunity to grow, may it be in the factor of having more land available for future development, may it be something else, may it be management restructuring, right? So we are always looking for this kind of stable assets where we can actually invest and help the funds grow even to a higher pace. Okay. And then finally, what I'll do is I'll just go through a summary. So in a nutshell, 500,000 if someone is looking for a Golden Visa. This is a 25 million euro VC fund with a target return of 7%. The way that the performance fee works, actually, very simply put in here, on the 7th year, when the funds are distributed to the investors, the original investment amount is returned, and then there is a profit. That profit, essentially, the first 30% of that compounded return goes to the investor, and anything that is left over, let's call it Y, is then split 70-30 in the favor of the investor. Essentially, what we are trying to say is that if the fund does not make a 30% return, well, then the Lakhani Group Capital will not make any money on the performance, and only on the management, which is 1% annually for maintaining administrative costs. So there has to be a win-win, and I think this is a win-win for both our investors and for the management team. So that's it from me, Afsana. Back over to you.
Thank you so much, Rahim, for enlightening us about the 7X fund. And if from the before I open up the question, Pandora, I would like to ask if any other panelist would have any inquiry or any question with regards to the fund.
Looks exciting to me. I can't wait to set up another call with you, Rahim, and I would love to dive deep into this very exciting prospect.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you so much for your support.
All right.
Always,
Thank you
always.
so much, everyone. So, few questions about the fund. If you can help us understand that how this could be a better route than or a comparative or competitive route as compared to real estate investment. What are the comparisons?
Absolutely. I'll put one slide for that question, Sana. So when someone is investing in a real estate project, I think the cost comparisons is the obvious one because you are comparing apples to apples in this case. You can see the total amount in euros. Clearly, the fund is the clear winner because there is no taxation on entry and there is no taxation on exit either, and on the dividend. So this is actually a very, very, very tax efficient structure when compared to real estate, where, like Antonio mentioned, 28% real estate taxes on income, and then of course on capital gains. So when you look at gross yields, things look to be the same. But really, as an investor, you should look at net yields. What is the money that is actually coming down to your pocket? And when you do that comparison, then you will see that the fund is more of an efficient vehicle for your money to grow versus real estate. So that's it. But more importantly on that is also which investment team, which management team that you are going with. So not all funds are created equal. Okay, not every strategy is the same. So you must learn about the investment strategy of the fund and have confidence that that fund management team has the right synergies and the right mindset and the attitude for investment growth. Okay, so that's the comparison.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahim. Do you have any last thoughts? Like, do you want to share the past track record or anything else before we close the forum?
No, I think that's pretty much it. People have definitely talked about the timeline, so I would recommend folks, when they are ready, to either contact any of the panelists that are here, depending on the presentations that they have made. So the timeline is quite aggressive and quite fast. So at least for now. But there are some delays on the immigration side and whatnot. At least, but the idea is to at least get your applications in, and it's a better whole time when you're in, and versus just looking at from the outside and hoping and praying that things will get resolved from the immigration side. So get if this is something to your liking, please contact any one of us, and we'll be able to assist you appropriately.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, panelists, for being here and the attendees, the amazing team behind making this webinar a success. I hope it was an insightful and educational one for all of us. Thank you so much, everyone.
It was a pleasure to attend. See you
Thank
until
Thank you
you
next
very
so
time,
much,
much.
guys.
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful
Thank you. At your disposal for any question.